Hey guys. Hey everybody. Okay, so today we are talking about station station three. Jeez, what am I saying? Station three. We're talking about station three. Station three is all about our self-love. So if you're a person who tends to be highly critical of yourself, feel that you're not good enough no matter what you do, if you start to try to do things and you end up stopping because of perfectionism or other things, this is going to be station three is going to be where a lot of your work is going to want to be done. So what we're going to do today is go ahead and start to dig in on station three. We're going to talk about how do you start to figure out where are these things that are sort of stopping you in your tracks? Where are these underlying patterns that are causing this constant self-criticism? So as I said in my post in the group, if you're in the group, a lot of people are not in the Facebook group, but if you're in the Facebook group, the post I said, sometimes we teach what we need to know. I'm going to be very honest and very real. I have always been extremely self-critical. I'm vastly better than I used to be, but even I have triggers where, a lot of self-doubt creeps in, a lot of I'm not doing enough, a lot of, I'm never going to be enough. All of those things can really creep in, and they do. So sometimes, just to be very honest, this station three is one of those that I have to revisit a lot. So, if you grew up, let's say, with situations and parents that were expected you to be perfect or expected extremely high standards, even when you were a kid, if you grew up with people around you that taught you that you weren't very worthy of a lot of things. So a lot of people can go through, unfortunately, emotionally or physically abusive things that, needless to say, as a kid, all you can think is maybe you deserve this bad behavior, which you do not, which you never do. Nobody does. So let's get in. If anybody wants to tell me, I'm going to go into the live stream too. If you have station three issues or station three showed up in your flow factor, certainly let me know about it as well. Let's see here. I'm going to try to, let me turn this off. I am going to try to keep up with live stream notes as well. All right, so let's dig into station three. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and kind of show you station three. Here we are. Okay. So the main thing that happens here in station three is I worry that I'm not good enough. That's sort of the biggest one. That's the core belief. That's the slogan, the sort of station slogan that gets played again and again and again. And so really what we're looking for here is to find these beliefs that are encoded in that are causing that issue with your sense of self-love, your sense of self-worth. And I should say, let me make sure, can everybody, if you're in here live, can you let me know if you can hear me? Because yesterday my audio was not working properly. So I just want to make sure that input, okay, it should be working just fine. Okay. If you can let me know if you can hear me, that would be super helpful as well. So, okay, so we're going to talk about, here are obviously, and you have the book, the issues that you're dealing with. If you're dealing with issues in station three, they are things like, okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Rachel. So, okay, so what we're looking at here in station three is these kinds of issues, okay? So a lot of them really are around not feeling like you're good enough, overworking, a lot of addiction shows up here in station three. In fact, whenever I deal with someone with addictive issues, which addictions can be to a lot of different things, okay? So addiction can be to things like gambling, drugs, alcohol, but we can also have addictions to things like overworking, right? Because that overworking usually stems from this sense that nothing is ever good enough. You're never going to be good enough. You can't just put enough out and that you'll get the response that you need or the experience you need or the pay that you need out of that. It's like that proving of yourself is where it comes from. Addiction also oftentimes is trying to dampen down. Most of the time when I deal with people with addictions, they are empaths or empathic people, very sensitive people. And oftentimes they've had some very difficult things happen along the way in their life. And so oftentimes that addiction can be that thing that sort of soothes that feeling of not being good enough, of feeling too much in the core. Okay. And I will say this, the location of this station. So when we're looking at it, it's sort of in your solar plexus. So it does deal with, and we'll scroll down here, not knowing who you are. Identity issues are a big one in station 3. I've helped a lot of clients that are dealing with shifting their identities in whatever way it is. So deciding that they are, whatever they were trained to be by parents and society is not who they truly are, right? And they'll come to me with like stomach issues, ulcers, those kinds of things. And a lot of the time it's really they're like eating away at themselves because they either don't want to put voice to the decisions that they need to make to be more authentic to themselves. They don't want to have to stand up. I've had people that realized that they were gay, homosexual, whatever their sexual orientation was, and they were afraid their families were going to turn against them, which is just awful. But again, it doesn't have to be your sexual orientation. If you've been brought up that way, there can be a lot of different things that you suddenly standing up for yourself and saying, this isn't me, could cause massive, massive issues. And a lot of times those will show up in your liver, pancreas, stomach, spleen, upper intestines, kidney, adrenals. Adrenal burnout comes from that overproving of yourself, hypervigilance, thinking you have to be on all the time to fix everyone else's issues or be the one that's paying attention to everything. That comes from that. I actually have a really funny story about the gallbladder. I was presenting at the Science of Consciousness conference down in Tucson, Arizona a few years ago, and I had this guy come up to me, and he just was like, he was one of the I think he was like the mayor of some little town in Canada, and he had this very bold voice, and he was very, that kind of aggressive when he came up to me. He's like, I don't know about this stuff, like this mind body stuff, whatever. And he ended up telling me he had like gallstones and a lot of problems with his gallbladder really hurting. And he's telling me all of this, and I said, okay, well, who in your life is making you feel like, the gall of this person? It's usually it's that literal with gallbladder stuff. And I still remember his giant guffaw. Like he had this huge laugh, and I was like sort of stepped back, and he's like, oh my God, I literally say that. I literally say that about my mom, the gall of her, because she's driving me crazy. And I'm like, well, that's your gallbladder. It's that sense of who you are being challenged by someone in your life, and sometimes it will show up quite physically in your body. I will say, guys, if you're having station 3 issues, I also have this Thursday, and I'll post that in the group. I'm doing one of my free 1-minute healing sessions where you can come on, and I will basically in 1 minute give you a translation of what's going on within your body and what the translation of that is, the message of it is. So I'll post that in the group if you're dealing with that. Okay, so let's talk about this. Do we love ourselves? Okay, so many of us are taught not to love ourselves, or that it's selfish to love yourself, or that you should love everyone else first and foremost, and everyone else's needs are more important than yours, right? And you should, center that love outside. The problem is, guys, until you love yourself at your core, you are going to keep attracting things that are not for your best, that are not good enough. You have to find a way to start unconditionally loving yourself. And I will say, if you are at all in the healing field or interested in being in the healing field, I am going to do I think it's about 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to do a radical self-love for healers challenge. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. Mostly because a lot of us that are healers and coaches, we can't do as well for our clients if we're not working on this and creating that sense of radical self-love. So are you capable? A core question in this station is, are you capable? And I want you to actually write this one down. Are you capable of expressing love to yourself? Are you? And if so, fantastic. What does that look like? If not, why not? Are you capable of expressing? And what does expressing love for yourself even look like? Do you even know what it looks like? For a lot of my clients, they don't even know where to begin. And I got to be honest with you, there was a point in my life where I did not know where to begin on even expressing love for myself. I just was at a point of like just about giving up, that I just didn't know how to even figure this out, to be completely honest. So You can get there, I promise you. And again, as I talk about, there are triggers, and this is a lifelong journey. If station 3 is a big one for you, it's a lifelong journey, but you will get better. All right. So one of the things I really want you to think about is how you really feel about yourself, not the facade that maybe you put on to the world, and I got to be honest with you. I see so many coaches and healers that are not real about this, and they put this facade on, and then I happen to know them in real life. And I'm like, I actually know the struggles they're going through, and it can be hard to share those things, right? But it's important to really get to the root of how you really feel about yourself, not whatever image you put out, just how you actually feel about yourself. And I have this story in the book that I think is an important one, and it's hard. Even talking about it still gives me like that little sense in my belly, but. So imagine you're going off to like a high school reunion, and you found this outfit, you feel so great in it, you put this outfit on, you get your hair done and whatever it is, if you're, you put your makeup on or whatever it is, and you go off to your high school reunion and you feel amazing. And then suddenly people start making fun of you. And then suddenly you start hearing these critical comments about yourself. Do you still at that moment in time feel good about yourself? Are you still confident in what you chose, how you chose to appear, in how you are as a human? For most of us, the question would be no. And honestly, it still gives me like a stomach thing, because nobody wants to be in this position. The goal for me on station 3 is to get you to the point that who you genuinely are in your core, you feel so confident in it that and I know this sounds crazy, but like an entire room of people could be giving you criticism about yourself and you'd be still completely okay. That takes work, but that's the goal, because once you're there, you can do just about anything in your life, okay? So this is pretty normal. So the problem is, for a lot of us, we have been trained constantly to look externally for validation. A lot of times, if you were an empath, which I know we have a lot of empaths in this group, you were trained to constantly be aware of everyone else's needs. And so some of this can just simply come from the fact that your empath nature is not under control. And so you're just always picking up everybody else's stuff, and you don't have healthy boundaries. You don't even know what those boundaries are because you're picking everyone else's stuff all the time, okay? So the problem is, though, the only way to start changing your life and creating and manifesting abundance, manifesting all the good in your life, is to be able to make decisions in your life that are genuinely authentic to you, that are genuinely empowered for you, for your life, that you can feel really solid on, okay? So the problem is, for a lot of us, it stops us in our tracks, because we start, and I don't know if anybody can think of a decision they've tried to make or want to make, and they're worried about what everyone else is going to think or what their reaction's going to be. I know so many people have that, where it's like, I really want to make this change, but what are people going to say? And the problem is, if you in your core know that there's something that is going to help you take action to manifest your dream life, for your fact, this is your truth, this is what you need to create in your life, how do you get that strength inside you to be able to make that decision with confidence and detaching from that external validation or lack thereof, and giving yourself that internal validation? So that's what I want you to think about as we're moving into all of this, okay? So if some of this, when we're talking about, is really kind of kicking up, oh my gosh, I do have a lot of external, it's really hard for me if I feel like I'm being criticized, then this, and honestly, for pretty much anyone that has station 3, I would really start here. So this is on page 268 in the book. These workbook sections are going to be really important. If you find yourself just not, you maybe internally know you want to make a decision, but you're not quite making that decision because you feel like other people's expectations, other people's thoughts or feelings about you are sort of stopping you, then like this retuning statement right here, I trust myself to make decisions that are appropriate for me. Others offer me support and love in all my endeavors. So basically that one is because we want to retune our mind into the belief that there is support there for the things that we are going to go forward on. And for a lot of us, if we've had a lot of very negative experiences around this, that's very hard to believe. Okay. So just to let you know, this won't feel comfortable necessarily at first. You're not going to believe it at first, and that's okay. And that's where like the rest of the creating your personalized action plan comes in, because when you combine it with the ways that you learn best, that starts to empower this process. Okay. Are you authentic to yourself? Are there situations where you're not authentic to yourself? And this is where we kind of have to start evaluating the people in our life. Where are we not being authentic to ourselves? Why are we not being authentic to ourselves? And are these relationships, if there are relationships where we're changing ourselves for that relationship, is that where we want to be? So if you've got a 2 and a 3 in your flow factor numbers, that's probably something that you want to take a look at. That's probably where there's a little bit of problems. Okay. So here's a good one. What's not to love about you, right? What's not to love? Have you ever asked yourself that? Probably not, right? We end up like getting this thing, like if we really, really love ourselves, we're vain. Anybody else been called vain when you like actually, I have been called vain by a family member for simply expressing a boundary. So like vain can get thrown at you, and therefore you think it's that self-confidence. There is a big difference between self-confidence and ego. Ego is false self-confidence. Ego is, I'm putting all this out there, but I don't actually feel confident about myself. That's the facade. Okay. When we genuinely feel confident, we feel like what's not to love about me, that's just self-love. That's just self-worth. You don't have to be putting it out there. It's internal. You feel it. And because you feel it, you change the way you interact in the world. Okay. So this one is, and we talked about it in the particles and how particles come together and that we really are made of stardust. The truth is we end up criticizing ourselves so hard. And I want you to pay attention to, are you criticizing yourself in the same way? Do you use the same words that people in your life used to criticize you or to stop you in your tracks? And I will tell you, probably 95% of the time we are. So if we can catch that, that's really important. Okay. That self-talk is important to pay attention to. So the truth is, what's not to love? You are a complete miracle. You were literally molded out of stars and trees and the particles of everyone that's ever come before you. The fact we exist in this moment in time in the package that is you is a miracle, you guys. It's a miracle. There is so much about you to not just love, but like exalt, to adore. The fact you're here is amazing. At one point, I can assure you, we all believed this. My sweet little baby girl, when she came into the world, there was no worry about what anybody else thought about her. She was just happy and adorable and giggling and just, you see little kids, she could run around like naked and, like whatever she did was amazing, right? And that's how we all felt. And then what happens is we become inundated with opinions about everything. The UFOs we've talked about before, the unidentified foreign opinions, and they just come at us constantly. And depending on how you were brought up, depending on your culture, depending on your religion, depending on so many of these things, you get all this stuff that like things are wrong with you. And there's parts of you that are bad or dirty or weird, or you have a weird voice or da 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 da. I have heard it all. And believe me, I have thought most of it. There is so much we get inundated with. Okay, so everything becomes under scrutiny by other people, by authority figures in our lives. And this is where things go off the rails, you guys. This is where we stop believing that we are awesome miracles and that we can do anything that we want to create in this world, okay? This makes us feel worthless and unlovable, okay? The personality, anything else, all of it is nonsense, okay? You are exactly who you're intended to be. You're perfect right now, even if you want to change things. As you are in this moment, you are perfect. What we're doing and working on in this station is simply accepting your perfection and then adding to it, shifting you into, okay, I do want to just shift this a little bit. I'd like to have this be more true for me, okay? All these parts that you've been told are bad or dirty, they're all necessary for our survival, right? If we didn't have booties and we couldn't go to the bathroom, what would happen? Not so good. Okay. You could not have all of these things in your life. If you didn't have sexual organs, you couldn't create life in this world. You couldn't create life. And yet we're told that those things are bad or dirty about us. I mean, That's ridiculous when you think about it, okay? So remembering that the source created you and the source doesn't make mistakes, okay? I want you to start working on, and this is going to be really your homework for today. And for anybody who's dealing with station 3, simply start working through this workbook. Keep working through the workbook, but I want you to work on loving yourself as you are in the present moment, just as you are, okay? We got to stop saying, well, I'll love myself if. I'll love myself when. I'll love myself when I lose 15 pounds. I'll love myself when I go get, this plastic surgery. I'll love myself when I make this much money. No, loving yourself now, accepting yourself now is the thing that actually helps raise your frequency so that if you want to make more money or if you want to have these things that are abundant, they start to come to you because your frequency says, I deserve them. Your frequency says, this is what I accept in my life, and I don't accept less. We're not settling anymore because I know my worth. Okay. So this is what, let me go down here. So if this is something that is a big issue for you, if you have a hard time loving yourself unconditionally, and again, I speak from the heart here, you guys. I have to go back to this one so often because those old fears and doubts will creep up on me. They do. I am not perfect with that at all. So I'm just letting you know, I have to go back to this all the time. If you are at a moment in your life where you are not loving yourself unconditionally, this is what we want to shift. I want you to start paying attention to how you criticize yourself. How do you put yourself down? How are you saying, well, I'll love myself if, it'll be okay if, I'll deserve it when. Bring your attention today to how you're doing that. And then I want you to actually work. If this is something that's a big issue, this 271, this one is so important, you guys, so important. What conditions are you putting on yourself? What do you dislike about yourself? Okay, put all those down. And then this is a practice I am going to challenge you with. And I will put a meditation up in the group that is going to be kind of a practice that's kind of around this. And it may be difficult, but I'm telling you, you do this practice, it's life-changing, okay? So write them down as I love statements. So what are the things you dislike about yourself? And then write those down as I love statements. And it could be something like, I hate my thighs. I will tell you, and we all have things that we criticized. I always thought my nose bridge needed to be skinnier. I would not do a nose job. If anybody wants to do a nose job, do it. That's perfectly fine. I just chose that it was ridiculous. And so for me, it was ridiculous to feel that way. However, and so like, I might write down, I love my nose. Okay. And actually I do now, but that'd be one for me. And again, these are these things that we end up criticizing. If you were bullied, if you had people make fun of you for something, if people, said things to you as you were a kid. I've had so many clients who were told just horrific things by parents that we had to dig in and unwind and say, no, there's nothing wrong with this. The things that they put you down for, your passion about life or whatever it is, there was nothing wrong with this. There was never anything wrong with this. There was something wrong with them, not with you. Okay, so I want you to write those down as I love statements. If you have some things that are rough on you, that you think are wrong with you, write those down as your I love statements, okay? Then at least 4 times a day in the next week, say these positive statements to yourself in the mirror. Again, the meditation I'll put up in just a second is called Body Love. It is actually a guided practice. So it's not a close your eyes and meditate. It is a guided practice that you should do in front of the mirror, listening to my words and guiding yourself in this practice. Again, I'm not going to say it's easy at first, but it gets easier every time you do it. Okay. And the more that this is difficult for you, the more you need it. Okay. So I don't like to ask people to do a lot of difficult stuff, but this one, the harder it is, the more you need it. So take deep breaths. If it's hard for you, I'd like you to immediately have something planned right after you do this that is going to be something joyful for you. So for sometimes people are like, oh, I love chocolate. So have maybe some chocolate there or hot chocolate, or you're going to take yourself off to your favorite coffee house and get a mocha, whatever it is, start rewarding yourself because that's part of self-love too. I did this hard thing to work on loving myself, and now I'm going to put a little self-care in there, a little self-love in there, and honor something I love about myself, like a hot tea. I've got actually, this is one of my favorite mugs. So it's a bunch of Shakespearean insults, because honestly, I don't know anybody who was better at ridiculous insults. All eyes and no sight. Like, it's just a bunch of silly. My husband got me this because they crack me up. Anyway, so this is one of my things, but I love a lovely cup of coffee. I get this French coffee I love. So if I'm doing something hard, I'm going to want to have a great mug that I love and sip. This is not actually hard to do today, but this is an example of that. Okay. So this is something that I really, 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 really want you to dig in, guys. Here's another really good practice to work on today. Make a list of the personality traits you find undesirable or that people have criticized you for. So I had somebody I was working with that the people kept saying, oh, you're too loud, you're too loud, you're too loud. And I was like, all right, let's go start finding some people that were too loud and that are now, being praised for using their voice in expressive ways. And there's plenty of examples. There's opera singers, there's politicians, there's leaders of every kind, right? And so I want you to think about, what are the personality traits that people have criticized you for? In my case, I'll give you a good one. So one of my first or second jobs out of college, I was working with this guy who is actually a very nice guy, but I was working with this guy and he started calling me Mother Teresa, and he did not mean it in a nice way. He was calling me because I genuinely cared so deeply about every person that I met. And so money was just not my motivating factor. And I was in this sales job where I was supposed to be going out and making sure I was making sales. And for me, my connection with other people, making a difference in their day, making a difference in their lives was the more important thing. And, if I was in a sales presentation and somebody was having a really bad day, I was probably going to shift into helping them with their bad day. And then, oh, by the way, I might make the sale. Okay. And so that was something he criticized me for. But I could also go and look at Mother Teresa and look at how much she changed the world with this personality trait that I was, and I still have been criticized for. I have had people who continue to criticize me for that level of care about other people. And it can cause me problems sometimes, truthfully, but I would rather be this way. Okay. So that's going to be the same for you. Put down personality traits that maybe somebody has criticized you for, and go find people who have those personality traits, and then take a look of that. You can put some pictures of those people in your personal space. And now that I'm remembering this exercise, I'm probably going to do this myself today. Okay, we're all going to do it together. Put pictures of these people all over your personal space. Write on the back of each one what that attribute was, or underneath it. You can make a poster of it if you want to, and hang it up in your office or your space, your bedroom. And then, here's one. So I've had people that were shy. Oh, I've been told I'm too shy. I'm too much of an introvert. But for instance, I love the poetry of Emily Dickinson. Always have. Loved her poetry since I was a pretty young kid, 6th, 7th grade. And how was her shyness an asset? How was her introversion an asset? It allowed her to write amazing poems. And now everybody knows who Emily Dickinson is, or most people, if you happen to like literature, right? So take a look at this. And these are sort of your exercises. We're looking at page 271, 272. I'm going to do these. I will do these along with you today, you guys. I'm going to do it together because, again, I never ask you to do anything I don't do myself. And so let me know how this sits with you. Hopefully it is really great. Oh, hi, Candace. I didn't know you were here. Glad she's here too. So these are my exercises for you today. We will work on station 3 again tomorrow. Station 3 really is such a big one. If you think about the way, if we've got from 1 to 7, 3 is your core. It's the middle. It's the one that connects everything to everything else. Okay. And so station 3 tends to be one we need to spend some time on, because getting to this place of self-acceptance, unconditional love, is just one of the best things you can possibly do for yourself. So I look for me to put up that body love practice, guided practice that you can use. I would really, really love for you to use it on a daily basis. If station 3 is a top one for you, this is going to be such a good practice for you. And again, within that, just make sure that if it's really hard for you, and it can be really hard, as I said, at first, to do that practice, to say, I love these things you don't think you love at this moment in time. Make sure that you've planned something for yourself right afterwards that is going to really be that self-care, that self-love, that taking that moment for yourself. All right. Sending so much love out to you guys. You know, I am here. I love you. I believe in every single one of you. You have no idea. I will always be your greatest cheerleader. I promise you that. So you can do this. You can absolutely do this, you guys. You've got it. Yep. And Rachel, see you soon. So for anybody, again, have a wonderful day. Get going on these practices. Be really gentle with yourself, really gentle. This is not about kicking yourself in the butt. If you've got station 3 issues, you probably kick yourself in the butt way too much. This is about going in gently, being loving to yourself, shifting these things from a place of gentleness and love. Okay. I am not the person to come to for being kicked in the butt. I'm the person to come to be like, all right, we've got this. We're going to be gentle with ourselves and shift. Okay. Sending love out to every single one of you. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you for being here, and let me know how this goes. See you soon.